Think about the last week of your life. How many times did you let someone cut you off mid-sentence and just swallow it? How many times did you laugh at a joke that was clearly aimed at you, just to keep the vibe good? How many times did someone cancel on you last minute, offer a lazy excuse, and you replied with that same line, "No worries, it's fine"? It wasn't fine. Every single time you did that, you weren't just being easygoing. You were giving a silent lesson. With me, disrespect is free. No fee, no friction, no consequence. And people learn very fast where disrespect is cheap. The reason you keep getting treated like the backup option isn't only because other people are selfish. It's because you've been worshiping the most overrated god in modern life, being liked. Approval has become your drug. You lower your voice when there's tension. You agree to things you hate to avoid disappointing anyone. You make yourself smaller every time a room gets uncomfortable. That's the approval-addicted version of you bending at the first hint of frowns, flinching whenever someone might think you're too much. Now, contrast that with the version of you that actually deserves respect. The Machiavellian version doesn't live to keep everyone comfortable. He will tolerate tension, anger, awkward silence, even losing people, rather than betray his own standards. Niccolò Machiavelli would never ask, "Is this man nice?" He would ask, "Is this man dependent on being liked?" Because a man who needs to be liked is predictable. Push on his fear of rejection, and he will fold exactly the way you want. A man like that isn't a threat. Here's the accusation you need to swallow. It's not just that other people are selfish. It's that you trained them to put their comfort above your value. You taught friends, partners, co-workers that your feelings are negotiable. Their convenience is not. In this video, I'm going to give you 7 dark laws of respect, seen through a Machiavellian lens, that explain why some people are treated like fragile background props and others are treated like gravity itself. If you never see these laws, you'll keep confusing approval for power, chasing likes while bleeding respect. If you learn them and use them ethically, you'll stop being the harmless extra and start becoming the man every room quietly orbits. But before we get into Machiavelli's darkest lessons, we have to draw a very hard line: how to stop being liked without turning into another unstable, cruel person. Because the goal isn't to kill empathy. The goal is to kill the part of you that kneels for approval. Before we go further, you need to understand something clearly. Becoming dangerous does not mean becoming a monster. In this context, dangerous simply means you are no longer easy to move, guilt, or manipulate. You are dangerous to systems and people who live off control, not to random strangers minding their own lives. You can say no without breaking down afterwards. You can watch someone be disappointed, even angry, and resist that old reflex to rush in and fix their feelings so you feel safe again. That is not cruelty. That is disciplined self-respect. What we are not doing here matters as much. We are not glorifying emotional abuse. Machiavelli understood a harsh truth. A prince must sometimes be willing to act not good when survival or order demands it. But he also warned that a ruler who becomes hated units enemies against himself. Real Machiavellian power relies on restraint and calculation, not chaos and sadism. So treat the 7 laws you're about to hear as weapons for self-defense, not excuses to become the villain you once feared. They exist to protect your time, your energy, and your mind from being drained by people who only respect what they can't easily control. Good men who refuse to learn how dark behavior works become its easiest victims. Good men who learn it ethically stay good without staying weak and programmable. To stop being liked and start being respected, you first have to know what respect is beneath the self-help slogans. Most people lump everything into one vague word: they like me or they don't. Machiavelli would call that childish. Social life actually runs on 3 different currencies: approval, respect, and fear. Approval is when people enjoy you. They laugh with you, invite you out, double tap your posts. It feels warm, but it is soft. Someone can approve of you and still ignore your boundaries, still talk over you, still forget you whenever something more exciting comes along. Respect is different. Respect means that even if they don't always like you, they factor you in. They edit their words around you. They keep their promises to you. They hesitate before wasting your time. Then there is fear. Fear means they avoid crossing you altogether, but often with resentment and secret hostility. They obey, but they also fantasize about seeing you fall. Each currency has its place, but here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men today are trapped in the weakest one: approval. They optimize everything to be relatable, easygoing, non-threatening. They get laughs, they get invites, they get "you're such a nice guy," yet when it comes to decisions, protection, or real loyalty, they have 0 leverage. Machiavellian respect sits between approval and raw fear. You are not universally liked, but you are unsafe to disrespect. People may or may not enjoy your presence, but they absolutely consider the cost of mistreating you. Machiavelli wrote that it is safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Translated for your world, it is safer to be quietly feared and respected than loved with no consequences. The goal is not to become a tyrant everyone hates. The goal is to stop betting your life on the cheapest currency there is. The 7 laws in this video are levers that pull you out of approval, first mode liked, used, and owned, and into respect first mode, where you might lose some fans but gain actual power. Without this model, you'll either overcorrect into loud aggression or stay stuck as a soft people pleaser, wondering why being nice never changed your rank. With it, you finally understand the game you're in, and that sets up the first law: how you speak to yourself and what you quietly allow is where all external respect begins. Once that foundation shifts inside you, every interaction, each boundary, and decision starts to feel different because you are no longer negotiating your value. Look at how you treat yourself when nobody's watching. That is the price tag everyone else quietly reads. You laugh when you're actually hurt because you don't want to make it awkward. You say it's fine when it's not fine because rocking the boat terrifies you more than swallowing disrespect. You accept crumbs of effort from people you give everything to, and then you wonder why they never show up fully. They're just following the standard you set. Self-respect is not a poster quote. It is the baseline of your entire life. It decides what tone you tolerate, what behavior gets another chance, who is allowed near you, and how you speak to yourself in the dark when nobody can hear. If inside your own mind you treat yourself like a disposable extra, the world will happily agree. Think about how often you do unpaid emotional labor. At work, you're the one people vent to, dump projects on, ask favors from, because you'll say yes and never send an invoice. In friendships and relationships, you let people talk to you in ways you would never allow someone to use with a person you truly respect. You defend them to others while they barely defend you to themselves. Machiavelli would compare you to a state that refuses to guard its borders. A territory like that doesn't deserve peace. It attracts invasion. Your lack of inner borders is an open invitation to exploitation. Fixing this does not require dramatic speeches. It starts with tiny acts of rebellion against your own disrespect. No more self-deprecating jokes you secretly believe. You correct your language from "I'm stupid" to "I made a mistake." You stop explaining yourself to people who have already shown they don't care. You quietly step back from anyone who breaks your minimum standard twice, without announcing it, without begging them to understand. If you don't raise your internal standard, no outer tactic will ever stick, because people can always feel what you think you deserve. Self-respect is your first alliance with power. Without it, no consequence you set will matter anyway. Respect doesn't live in what you say. It lives in what happens after someone crosses the line. This is brutal behavioral economics. Whatever costs people nothing, they will do more of. Whatever costs them something real, they quickly stop. Right now, you've priced disrespect at 0. A friend cancels on you 3 times in a row, and the 4th time you're still enthusiastic, still rearranging your schedule to fit theirs. Someone speaks to you with a sharp, contemptuous tone. You explode, argue, send paragraphs. Then a few days later, everything goes back to normal. What did they actually learn? That yes, you'll get emotional, but in the end, they keep full access to you. They still get your time, your attention, your help. The tantrum was free. When disrespect is free, it scales. The people in your life run a simple, unconscious calculation. With him, there is no cost. The Machiavellian alternative is quiet and surgical. A friend who keeps canceling stops getting priority. You're suddenly busy when they want to meet. Someone who talks to you like you're beneath them loses the privilege of your emotional availability. You don't comfort. You don't over-explain. You don't invite deep conversation. People who repeatedly ignore your boundaries stop getting favors. No speeches, no drama, no 10 warnings, just less of you. Machiavelli understood that one decisive correction is worth more than 100 soft threats. People remember actions, not lectures. You are not playing school teacher, trying to teach them a lesson. You are an architect adjusting access based on data. They showed you who they are. You restructure their place in your life accordingly. If disrespect never changes someone's access to you, they correctly conclude your boundaries are fiction. A simple, consistent consequence is a dark power almost nobody is willing to use, which is exactly why the few who do wield it change how every room treats them. Once people realize that mishandling you has a price, the next battlefield appears in the shadows. Who is really steering your behavior through your addiction to being liked in the first place? As soon as disrespect starts costing people something, they look for a different way to control you. They go for your need to be liked. Approval is the softest weapon and the most effective. A compliment, a heart on a post, "You're such a good guy" hits your brain with dopamine. You feel high for a moment, and like any drug, once you've tasted it enough. That's approval addiction. You can see it in the way you change opinions, depending on who you're with. Around one group, you're blunt. Around another, you suddenly become neutral and vague. You stay silent on what you really believe just to keep the room comfortable. You over-apologize for simple preferences like not wanting to go out, not wanting to drink, not wanting to lend money. None of this looks traumatic from the outside, but inside you've handed people a remote control for your emotions and decisions. All they have to do is threaten to withdraw their approval, and you will do work of controlling yourself for them. The mental pivot is brutal, but necessary. You shift from "I hope they like me" to "do they meet my standard?" From "I can't stand if they're upset with me" to "I can't stand betraying myself just to keep fake peace." Machiavelli said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few know what you are." When you live for approval, you become a costume, never your real self. Approval immunity doesn't mean you sneer at everyone's opinion. It means you refuse to worship it. Practically, that starts with one deliberate no per day, with no extra decoration. You let at least one person be disappointed in you without sprinting to fix it or attack yourself. As long as people can threaten you with disapproval, they own your behavior when it matters most. When you become immune to that threat, guilt trips, shaming, and social freezing stop working. And only then can your time and attention stop being treated like free samples everyone is entitled to grab for nothing ever again afterward. Once your worth is no longer on sale, the next move is obvious. Your time can't be cheap either. Think about the version of you that's always available. You answer every message instantly. You say yes to every favor. You stay late for people who never show up when you need them. You become the friend everyone calls at 2 a.m. to dump their problems on, but somehow they never remember to invite you at 8 p.m. when it's time to celebrate. You're the coworker who quietly fixes crises, but the praise and promotions always land on louder, lazier people. You're present in everyone's life, yet somehow you're the easiest person to overlook. That's not an accident. When something is everywhere, people treat it like background noise. Strategic scarcity reverses this. It's not a manipulation tactic. It's a realistic response to the truth that your time, focus, and energy are finite resources. If you hand them out like flyers, people will step on them. When you become selectively available, everything shifts. You choose which conversations deserve a reply now, which can wait, and which don't deserve a reply at all. You schedule periods where you are simply unreachable. You decline low-value invitations without guilt, because being bored or drained is more expensive than missing out. You reserve your best energy for the people who consistently show up for you, not for those who treat you like an emotional vending machine. Machiavelli observed and then judged more by the eye than by the hand. In other words, appearance shapes hierarchy. The man who isn't always around, who doesn't always say yes, is automatically perceived as higher value. If you treat your presence like air, others will breathe you in without thinking. When you make it rare, they inhale carefully. Strategic scarcity creates curiosity and caution. People start bringing their best behavior because they know access to you is not guaranteed. And once you choose not to be everywhere for everyone, the next power question appears. How do you carry yourself when you do decide to step into the room with intent? By now, your time isn't cheap, but there's still one thing that can bankrupt your respect in seconds: losing your temper on command. The moment someone can reliably trigger you, they stop fearing you and start using you. Watch how people test you. A joke that goes straight for your insecurity, delivered with a smirk and a relax. It's just banter. A little dig about your work, your body, your past, dropped in front of others, so you feel pressure to respond. Passive-aggressive comments, eye rolls, and sighs, designed to make you chase their approval or explode so they can call you unstable. The weak pattern is always the same. You overreact, over-explain, or rush to defend yourself to people who were never listening in good faith. You give them a show. You give them proof that their button works. The dark respect pattern feels like the opposite. You use short, clean responses or none at all. "Don't talk to me like that," said once, then you disengage. Or you just look at them for a second, let the silence burn their skin and move on. You don't match their volume. You don't try to convince the audience. You simply withdraw access and warmth. Machiavelli understood that leaders who mirror the panic of the crowd lose authority, while those who remain composed become anchors everyone unconsciously looks to. Calm is not the absence of emotion. It is emotion under command. You still feel the sting, the anger, the urge to clap back, but you choose if, when, and how any of it surfaces. If other people can pull rage, tears, or chaos out of you whenever they want, they own your frame. When their sharpest provocation barely changes your breathing, manipulators get nervous, and everyone watching quietly upgrades your rank. But if your response is always the same kind of calm, people will eventually learn how to walk around it. That's why the next law is about controlled unpredictability, so no one ever holds a full script of how to move you. Power demands that even your serenity has sharp edges. Predictability feels safe to you, but to everyone who wants something, it feels like an instruction manual. After a while, they don't see you as a person, they see you as a script. Always say yes to help. In the script, always forgive a big apology. In the script, always stay late when there's a crisis. In the script, people test you a few times, learn the pattern, and stop asking what is fair. And start asking, what do I press to get what I want? Push here, guilt comes out. Push there, free labor comes out. Predictability makes you efficient to control. Strategic unpredictability breaks that. This doesn't mean becoming chaotic or moody. It means varying your responses within your values, so no one ever feels entitled to your yes. Sometimes you help when you can. Sometimes you say no, even though you technically could, simply because the price isn't worth it. Sometimes you stay and socialize. Sometimes you leave early without a speech. Sometimes you forgive once. Sometimes you walk away without a second chance. Picture a friend who has learned you will always bail him out money. Rides, emotional rescue. He no longer respects your sacrifice. He relies on it. The first time you calmly say, "No, I can't," the ground moves under him. Or a partner who keeps pushing your limits, assuming you'll cave, like always. The day you don't, the day you let the distance stand, the entire power dynamic shifts. Machiavelli noted that fortune favors those who can adapt. Rigid rulers are easiest to overthrow because every move is predictable. The same is true for you. Strategic unpredictability keeps people slightly off balance, which forces them to treat you carefully instead of casually. A perfectly predictable man is easy to map and easy to own. When no one is ever completely sure what version of you they will get if they disrespect you, your value rises and entitlement dies, and all of that feeds the reputation that will quietly walk into rooms before you do and rewrite how everyone decides to treat you differently. Your reputation is the ghost of you that walks into the room before your body does. It is the short sentence people say about you when you are not there to defend or correct it. For most approval addicts, that sentence sounds like, "He's so nice, he'll understand," which really means you can push his limits, he'll fold. For a respect-first man, the sentence sounds closer to, Don't mess with him. He doesn't play about his standards. Same person, different laws lived. Think about a new colleague asking, "What's he like?" Do they hear, "Chill, he'll cover it if you drop the ball," or "He does his job, but don't dump your laziness on him"? When an ex-friend or ex-partner talks about you, are they describing someone endlessly forgiving, or someone who cut contact when disrespect became a pattern? That story they tell is not random. It is the accumulation of laws, 1 through 6, expressed over time. Machiavelli warned princes to guard their reputation more carefully than their possessions, because reputation decides who dares to exploit you and who angles for alliance. If your name is associated with gossip, drama, cheap yeses, and emotional outbursts, you attract predators and fragile people who want a free therapist, not a respected equal. If your name is associated with self-respect, consequences, approval immunity, strategic scarcity, cold composure, and a touch of unpredictability, people treat you like a loaded boundary. They argue more softly. They double-check their tone. They tell others, "He's solid, but don't disrespect him." That is passive respect. It works while you sleep. You are no longer arguing in every room. Previous rooms argue for you. A sloppy reputation guarantees low-quality connections and endless tests. A sharp one filters your life for you. And if you actually live these laws long enough for your reputation to harden, you stop being the nice guy with new boundaries and start becoming something else entirely. Something darker, calmer, and far more difficult to mishandle. That is the point where your name alone changes behavior, before you've even opened your mouth once. For them, some point, these laws stop being tactics and start becoming who you are. Picture the man you're turning into. He walks into a room and he's not silently begging, "Please like me." He is asking himself a different question. Is this room even worth my full presence? He decides how much of himself each person has earned. He speaks less, listens more, and when he finally opens his mouth, it's from conviction, not from fear of being misunderstood. There was a time you rewrote yourself to fit whatever group you were in. You over-apologized for existing. You needed other people's encouragement just to feel like you were allowed to want what you want. That was the approval slave. The man you are building now is a respect-first sovereign. He evaluates people instead of auditioning for them. Quietly sets the terms of every interaction, how deep the conversation goes, how long he stays, what he will and won't tolerate. He knows some connections will die because they were built on him being easy to use. From the outside, they censor themselves a little around you, not out of awareness. They notice you are not easily guilted, bribed, or flattered. Machiavelli would recognize this immediately. You are a modern prince of one. You rule yourself first, and everyone else must negotiate with your code instead of you constantly folding yourself to fit theirs. But understand this, if you don't consciously claim this identity, you will slide back the first time someone important says, "You've changed, you're cold now." Once you do claim it, living for approval isn't an accident anymore, it's betrayal. Identity isn't real until it survives pressure. Listening to all of this and nodding along changes nothing. Your nervous system only respects what you do under pressure. So for the next 7 days, I want you to run an experiment on yourself. Pick the 2 laws where you are weakest, maybe consequence architecture and approval immunity, or scarcity and cold flame. For each one, choose a single rule and treat it as absolute for 1 week. It could be, if someone disrespects my time once, I reduce future availability, no speech. Or, Once each day I say one clean no without explaining. Or, after any emotional trigger, I pause 5 seconds before I react. That's it. Not 20 rules, just 2. Keep a journal in your phone. Each night, write what happened, what you once would have done, what you did now, and how people adjusted. You'll start to see patterns immediately. Who backs off, who escalates, who becomes more careful. Remember the ethical line. This is not about punishing everyone around you. It's about stopping your habit of rewarding disrespect and selling your approval for cheap. Watching and agreeing but never acting is the highest form of learned helplessness. Your life stays the same. One disciplined week will prove how fast people recalibrate when your approval is no longer for sale and your respect is no longer free. And once you've felt that shift, you'll be ready to declare, loud and in public, that you are done being liked at the expense of your power. Being liked is cheap. Approval costs people nothing to hand out, but it costs you everything when you build your life and identity on it. Respect is different. Respect is built on how you treat yourself, what you tolerate, and what you are willing to lose, rather than betray your own standards. That is the spine behind every law you just heard. Machiavelli lived in a world obsessed with appearances, just like yours. His conclusion still stands. The man who can live without approval owns himself, and that is the only power no ruler, boss, lover, or crowd can take. You are not here to become cruel. You are here to be the man who doesn't fold when manipulation, pressure, and guilt arrive, dressed as love and concern. In a world full of people begging to be liked, the one who can live without approval unlocks the dark power of respect. If this hits you, claim it in the comments. Respect over approval. Tell me which law you will practice first this week. And if you want more Machiavellian lessons in dark self-improvement, power, and emotional sovereignty, subscribe and stay where fragile people are afraid to look for it now. Respect over approval. My worth is not debatable. I refuse to beg to be liked. My boundaries teach people how to treat me. My time and energy are not free. I choose respect, even if it costs approval. I am the sovereign of my own value. Drop this in the comments if you're done being liked at the cost of your self-respect. Respect over approval. Tell me, which dark law exposed your biggest weakness, and where will you apply it this week? If this finally showed you how you've been trading power for approval, comment, I stop giving my power away.